This week, the Union advances as the Confederacy crumbles. The first action of this week is at Fort Macon, North Carolina. For a month now, the isolated defenders have only had to deal with supply and morale issues. But now, the Union artillery is ready. At dawn, the sun rises, and the shells fall. Both the Union artillery and Confederate artillery have opened up. They fire with determination and quite quickly, just not accurately. A tired Confederate gunner looks over to the ocean. What does he see? Ironclads. The Confederates have to divert part of their fire towards the floating fortresses. They do land some hits, but these are ironclads. It's almost wasted ammunition. Back at the Union artillery positions, a young artillery officer rides to the men. "Stop! You've been off target." Upon correcting their fire, they start decimating the Confederate positions. At 4:30, the Confederates hoist the white flag, and Colonel Moses White, the Confederate commander at Fort Macon, leaves, ready to accept the previously offered terms of surrender. At first, he is rejected. They have fired ammunition and now want a complete surrender. But his stubbornness prevails, and he and his men surrender upon the promise of parole, which is achieved. On the 26th, Fort Macon surrenders, and the North Carolina campaign is a success. Roanoke, Beaufort, Elizabeth City, Morehead, Washington, the entire coast has been conquered. The only question that remains is where will Brigadier General Ambrose Burnside go from here? Back to the 25th, the Mississippi River burns. The Battle of New Orleans continued. After receiving permission from Union Commander David Porter, a Confederate naval vessel takes up the wounded from the battlefield, lest they get in the way for the next fight. At 2, Flag Officer David Farragut of the Union accepts New Orleans' surrender. One problem, though. New Orleans hasn't surrendered yet. Marines and Union officer march triumphantly into New Orleans, hoist the American flag, and get ready to meet with Confederate General Lovell and New Orleans mayor, both of which are quite confused what a small Union contingent are doing in their city, which is currently, in a battle with them. And then once they hear that they had come to accept their surrender, they have a good laugh and turn them away. But as the Union leave, they are harassed and see William Mumford tear down that American flag and have it destroyed. The Union leaders are pissed, to say it mildly. On the 27th, the Confederate commander of the forts, Duncan, realizes his men's morale is quite low, so he decides to give a rousing speech. Is it successful? On the 28th, mutiny. The men at Fort Jackson are tired of the Union bombardment. So they get out of their tents, move over to the cannons, remove the cannons, spike them, and just walk out of the fort with their weapons, leaving behind only a few loyal gunners. Duncan has now reached catastrophe, and he moves over to ask for terms of surrender. And while he does so, a lone Union soldier looks out. Is that the CSS Louisiana? The ship floats closer and closer and closer. It's now at the fort. Wait, it's on fire? Bang! The ship explodes. The crew of the CSS Louisiana were not willing to surrender their ship, so instead they lit it, sent it down, and once it finally reached the magazine, boom. The next day, the Confederates do surrender. The Union suffered 229 casualties to the Confederates 782, a resounding victory. Plus, there's no defenses at New Orleans, so the city has fallen to the Union. On the 29th, Farragut moves in and seizes New Orleans. He rips down the Louisiana flag and he raises the American flag. And unlike the last one, this is here to stay. On May 1st, Major General Benjamin Butler with 5,000 men occupy the city of New Orleans, ready to keep order within it. Do you remember previously Butler had been stationed in Virginia, where he famously lost a battle? Do you remember previously in the war, Butler famously lost a battle in Virginia, but he made up for it with the public by using the Confiscation Act to seize slaves as contraband. From here, his fame rose. This left Lincoln in a hard place. Butler is popular, but he's also incompetent, militarily speaking. what to do with him. Let's stick him in a place where he has a lot of fame, it's prestigious, but he can't fight. And that's how Butler ended up in New Orleans. So they gave him the position of occupying the biggest city in the South. What could go wrong? Returning to the 29th, the Union laid siege to Corinth, Mississippi. 120,000 men of the Union laid siege to the city, and 65,000 Confederate soldiers were currently seeking refuge in it. It has been almost 1 month since the Battle of Shiloh just outside of Corinth. Major General Henry Halleck, the leader of the Union forces, has been moving purposely slowly, not wishing to risk any unfavorable engagement. Despite having laid siege to Corinth, he's not willing to make any offensive movements. He's just setting up camp. What will become of the siege? We'll have to wait and see. The same day, different siege. Major General George B. McClellan has gotten up his siege cannons, and this has gotten full General Robert.E.Lee quite worried. In doing this, he writes to Major General Stonewall Jackson. Major General T.J. Jackson, commanding, etc., switch on gap. General, from the reports that reached me, the enemy's force at Fredericksburg is too large to permit me to reduce the force I have opposing it, as if I do, I will invite an attack on Richmond from that direction, and endanger the safety of General Johnston's army on the peninsula. Can you draw General Edwin Johnston's command from Stanton to you? His returns show he has about 3,500 men. A successful blow against Banks' column would be fraught with the happiest results, and I deeply regret my inability to send you to the reinforcements you ask. Very truly yours, R.E.Lee. It's quite clear that the Confederate positions at Yorktown is just not working well for them. Full General Joseph E. Johnston, commanding the main Confederate force there, says first to the Navy, "Can you please cut the enemy's supply line?" They respond no. Then, "Can you please get us out of this position?" Yes. He starts planning for a withdrawal. It is set for May 3rd. Then, there are sickles. The thud of a wood plank, sound of footsteps, as the Excelsior Brigade leaves its transports, make way towards McClellan. Sickles is back in D.C. He is too late. That's where the week ends, and it ends with a desire for more. The Union has won 2 great victories, Fort Macon and New Orleans, but they need to be followed up on. What will Burnside do? He can move towards Rolla. He can attack the Confederate supplies, but he needs more men. He needs more supplies to do so. Farragut, he can move up Baton Rouge, even further up the Mississippi. But he needs more coal, more ways to power his steamships forward, even more ironclads possibly. Then there's Corinth. The Union needs another victory. Shiloh was a month ago. What has been taking him so long? He's asking for more time for Lincoln, but still he needs more and more victories. Then there's Yorktown, and Lincoln just needs anything from McClellan.